think I'm going to have to, by the way. Come on, bienvenue, welcome once again to another property live stream with myself, Gareth Wax of the Many Purple Hats, and of course, Hamish McClay of Search Convey, whose inspiration and support has really helped raise these property podcasts to a different level. This is but one of four, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first one. Tomorrow, of course, we've got Ipsa Kind of Magic, which is in his role as chairman of the Association of Independent Personal Search Agents. We talk about all things Ipsa and what it is to be an Ipsa person. We've been doing a great story time on that recently, some great stories. By the way, if anybody's interested in catching up in previous issues, please go to YouTube, where you'll find the property channel.
Spilling of the proper tea.
Spilling the proper tea, spelled proper and then tea. And you'll find there's a whole collection there. Really get your teeth into it. Everything from people shouting the odds about property safety, all the way through to tenancy and the implications of the latest tenancy law changes and so on. But today, this is property matters. And here we talk about things in a more general terms that affect properties, that affect occupancy, that affect not just rentals, but also the way in which property is manifested today. Today's topic is really in that spirit, repurposing Britain's empty buildings, because there are a myriad of buildings out there. In fact, I've got some stats for you, which I'm going to throw at you shortly. But before we do that, Hamish, would you set us going at least and talk a little bit about the topic while I gather my thoughts as far as stats are concerned?
Our major topic actually today. Good afternoon to you all. Not this wonderful sort of warmish weather that we were becoming accustomed to. That's what I said, warmish weather that we're becoming accustomed. It will return. It will return. Trust me. Global warming, with or without what us human beings choose to do, we'll actually see to that.
Yeah.
It just can't make its mind up again. We're going through the rainy phase. I'm trying interesting to speak to somebody not born in the UK. So I said, it does seem strange, Hamish, how the weather season isn't broken up, where you get a rainy season and a dry season, a hot season and a cold. Well, it's not like that at all. It's a bit like our government, but unfortunately, all of our governments seem to be below par, and they seem to have been that way for goodness knows how long. And they brought about, in part, the situation we find ourselves. But very rarely does something happen overnight. I mean, it was quite amusing to a certain extent. And politics are important because they do have an influence on what goes on. And to this day, one of the best potentially prime ministers that we could have had this century could actually have been Liz Truss. It's just actually the Bank of England destroyed her the day before she was due to bring out her budget. So the economy had collapsed overnight, and the suggestion was that she had collapsed this whole darn thing. But rarely does it.
I think what she suggested was so radical that the markets, which is all defined by confidence, just ran for the hills. I think that's what really did it. They're just scared of change, frankly.
Well, what I was trying to suggest was that was quite dramatic because it was very, very swift, very quick. Yeah. Whereas the condition we find ourselves in with empty buildings has picked up over a period of time.
Yeah. I mean,
from a rational perspective.
I can understand it. You can gradually, if you've got a portfolio and there's natural wastage, people decide they don't want to renew their tenancy for whatever reasons, or they leave, or they pass on, whatever the reasons are. So gradually over time, buildings come empty. But it seems to me crazy when there are so many of them? Let me hit you with some stats. England added 208,600 new homes in 2024-25, which sounds a lot, but it's down 6% on 23-24 and 16% down on 2019-2020. So there's been a gradual slowdown on new homes. That's well short of the original discussed 300,000 new homes a year ambition. This is from YouGov. There were 1.34 million households on local authority social housing lists in England on the 31st of March 2025. I have no reason to believe the figure has changed downwards. This is the highest since 2014, so that's quite remarkable. And empty homes apparently is not a small issue. In England, over 500,000 homes recorded empty in 2025. Long-term empty homes are rising too. In England, landlords have reported they have 310,000 or thereabouts homes, 210,000 homes empty for more than 6 months in 2025. Now, and the high street vacancy is up and down, whereas major cities such as Cambridge and so on have an 8.5% vacancy. In Newport, 19%, Bradford 18%, Blackpool 17.6%. So the overall picture, to me, appears, rather than just banging on about, as I have done, that we should be building. Well, there are a few 100,000 homes out there, 500,000, that could be part of that equation. What say you, Hamish?
Well, the thing, we were going to look at looking particularly at what's going on in town centres, right, as an indicator. And we've got a lot of reasons behind that. Of course, as a business now, business rates have gone up, which in fact it's the daftness of the whole situation. When people are struggling to buy things, why the heck would you put business rates up so people can have to pay more money, even if it's a supermarket? If you push the business rates up, but the worst of it is, as we well know, people can't enjoy themselves any longer. The number of people who visit pubs, the number of people who go for a coffee, and all these
hospitality is definitely dipped. Very much so.
And unfortunately, because of this, we notice that there are more and more places becoming empty. Now, the big challenge is to convert an awful lot of these buildings to residential use. There are different legalities relative to them if they're being used residentially compared to commercially.
Right.
And this does include, of course, an awful lot of these buildings in the high street were originally built as above the ground floor, the commercial, the bit that would the outward facing where customers would come in, be spending money and all the rest of it, were the offices and the storage to actually support those. So the majority of the buildings above the ground floor were actually designed for a type of commercial use.
Right.
Now, the thing is, there's much needs to be done, and sometimes it's much, much more expensive. I mean, where we are based in Bicester here, the big damage sort of came, and it's quite interesting. You were speaking about 2014. For some strange reason, 2014, our local council decided that they're a little bit concerned about the shortage of funds. If nothing like as short as they are now. So they sold off a lot of their high street ownership properties. And right. This didn't just happen in Bicester. This happened all over the country in many, many areas. Properties were sold off to new owners and who were investing it for future use. And now the thing is, this was notable. And we were speaking about this. We've been speaking about this for decades, actually. The number of properties that there are in London that people from abroad particularly have bought them, big business owners, to actually hang on to them and let the values go up and up and up and up before they actually sort of start using them. So they still stay empty. Now, exactly the same thing is happening in Bicester and so many other townships throughout the country, that, if you like, they're absentee landlords. There's not local residents that own these particular properties now. What's happened, of course, the people who owned these buildings previously were leasing the properties from the town council.
Right.
Now they've reached an age, the particular people, whoever's going to inherit it is going to, the spending in the towns and townships is sort of very much down. And of course, planning permissions. We forget about this. All these planning permissions to give out of town shopping.
Right.
Rather than in the centre. The investment was never in the centre. Had investment been placed in the centre, it would have made a big, big difference.
Well, it's caused the depletion of centralized, specialized shops. You're ending up with all those small shops that we used to love going to, the butchers, the bakers, the patisseries, the coffee shops. A lot of them are disappearing, and the high street is becoming, I wouldn't say a dead zone, but it's this encouragement of going out of the centre towards supermarkets, larger chains, etc., has really depleted the effectiveness of the high street. Would you not agree?
Oh, very, very much so. And of course, because of that, there's a disincentive to people. Why would you want to come into a township? Because when you look at the daftness, they're creating this sort of situation. Oh, we don't want your cars here. So the larger towns, the larger cities are putting out, trying to create all these no-go zones.
Right.
Putting up, I mean, London's a prime example.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep people out of driving into London like they are in Oxford. And so, if I can't remember last time I went to Oxford, I could go by bus. I mean, I am of an age where I could travel for free, but I haven't in the last 2 years. I've been to Oxford once, and that was to the theatre.
Right.
And even then, our daughter who dropped us off at the entrance to the theatre, she got done for driving in a no-go zone or something or other, which wasn't very evident to anybody. So, but what is actually sort of happening? Basically, there aren't the shops for the people to actually go shopping in. If all of those buildings were converted for people to become resident, first of all, there would be the cost. But if you transfer the ownership to residential, why, it's actually even again creating more and more of a reason for people not to bother shopping there.
Right.
I mean, you don't. So the challenge is, what are we to do about it? So it would be good to see much more use put to them, like those upper floors, for example. We don't need that kind of space any longer. You don't need the same kind of administrative support in many of these sort of shops, many of these outlets. So at least above that ground floor, we could be starting to put, and the councils themselves could, let's pull down the business rates. Let's give people the incentive to open up businesses, those lovely little sort of craft shops, those privately steered, to make them all different. Instead of every high street being the same sort of thing.
Quite right.
I used to go back, I mean, Bicester used to have a Woolworth and a Marks and Spencer's, as well as many other sort of, no Woolworth.
Bring back the pick and mix.
Oh, absolutely. I used to love going to Campbellton, up there in Scotland, really down near the Mull of Kintyre, because it reminded me of the old soup. Do you remember the old Woolworths where you'd actually sort of go in there?
I remember it.
People stood in the middle of the camp, and there'd be all these various things around, and it was just like that. It had barely changed, and the people were all friendly and all the rest. And at that particular time as well, it also appeared that shopping was a social. It was a social aspect. Hello, Mr. McLean. Good to see you again. Now, the bank that I've been using for 20 odd years, they don't even know who the hell I am. I have to give them my identity, been banking there for 20 years. I've still got to prove my identity. They don't know who the heck I am.
No, I had the same issue. I've been with my
But anyway,
bank.
back to the housing. We're meant to be speaking about housing.
Okay.
What do you do about it?
Here's some ideas for solutions. We often talk very much about where I'm going to propose some solutions. How about a proper town centre audit? So before converting anything, we should map what the town actually needs, because not every empty building is the same. Some streets have too much retail space, some of the wrong kind of space. Some need a bit mixture of commercial and domestic. And also, I think, make conversions mixed use by default. So instead of just simply turning empty building into flats, or larger sites could be required to include a mix of uses, home, workspace, community room, get those going. And I think there should be community rooms in each one of these conversions, because that would draw people in. And perhaps even set the minimum quality standards for converted homes. Homes created from offices and shops, they need proper daylight, ventilation, etc. So, a bad office doesn't automatically become a good flat. But there is lots of opportunities there. And dare I return to my early tenet, which was, there are lots of vacant homes there that could be turned into use very easily. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing we want to actually sort of see, we want to see the original residents of this country, those that have been here for a time, those who have been waiting for getting into a property for a time to get there. They should be the ones that we're focusing on. They should be the ones that, but as Gareth, you pointed out there, a great idea. Carry out an audit. What is going on in our town?
What is actually needed? What is actually needed? What is actually wanted? What do the people want?
As well as we do need it. It would be great to sort of have a few more people about, and it would be great to support those, particularly in the, if you like, the leisure industry, to encourage them. I mean, when it sort of tries, I mean, this is why so many pubs are closing down, even in sort of town centres. What do you do with them? Because sometimes they're quite large buildings.
Right.
And of course, a lot of the buildings, when I look around Bicester, some of those buildings are massive. There's a couple of sort of ex-supermarkets. One of the ones where sort of Marks and Spencer's was. One of the ones, I think, where Woolworths was. One of the ones where Poundland was. And so places of this particular nature, could we not have a group of shops in there? Bring those business rates down.
Or even, yes, I was going to say pop-up shops within a market space. That would be fun. That could make areas like that a destination. Oh, I'd love to see what's going on at the market. I think there's lots of positives that could be taken from this. But it's coming to the end of our podcast for today. So, Hamish, would you care to take us home, please?
Well, I think that there's a lot of things that could actually be done, particularly at the moment when councils see themselves, they're on the ropes. What do we do? And I think the best thing they could possibly do, and this hasn't been demonstrated for a number of years. Hopefully, Reform have taken over a number of these council seats in various different places. Will start looking and saying, what can we do for the townspeople? We don't want to do it for the Reform Party. What can we do for the townspeople? And anybody in any particular part of the country, what can we do for our townspeople? Because there's a lot that can actually sort of be done. Some of it will need to be experimental. There won't be necessarily an awful lot of cost involved, but it could be creating partnerships between the councils and the owners of property. Give people who own the property some kind of incentive. If they stuff the business rates right up there, who's going to be able to afford the lease on that particular property?
No, there has to be
with ongoing price of the business rates as well. So there's a lot that we can actually do. But what it does need, and that audit is a vitally important sort of part, because there's so much mixed use we could have, a mixture of offices. What we've actually sort of seen is a great success in that.
But back in the 1800s, 1900s, mixed use was the norm. Everything was a bit of this and a bit of that. I think it could return to that community further. It would pull back together again the high street as being a place where people wanted to be rather than a ghost town. I think there's lots to be had here. Thank you so much, Hamish. What an excellent discussion. I hope you guys have found that useful. I saw a lot of you flooding in earlier. But remember, we've got three more property shows for you. Tomorrow, it's Kind of Magic, and we've got a Property Quorum, and of course, Cladding Matters on Friday. Thank you for joining us today. And until tomorrow, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and please try and look after your mental health. Bye-bye now.